Good evening everyone, and welcome to day 21 of the 40 Days of Hope, a message today that God can speak your love language. That will definitely make more sense to you by the end of this. And I really encourage you to listen in, because even if you're not a Christian, or if you decide that by the end of the 40 days this isn't for you, I think that you'll definitely take something on board that will improve all of your relationships. First, just yesterday's reading was on Luke 20. If you haven't read that yet, I really encourage you to read Luke 20. It's one of my favourite chapters in Luke, and the reason is it tells us just how witty Jesus is. There's two stories where Jesus is like his enemies were trying to trick him, and he just constantly outwitted them in really clever ways, which is what I really like to read about. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this book called The 5 Love Languages, and the reason for the idea came to me is it's actually Mark's birthday today. By the time you're listening to this, it was actually yesterday, and I suppose that's why the idea came. When I started seeing Mark, we'd only been seeing each other a month or two before I went back to Ireland for the summer. So I suppose our relationship changed to where we were kind of just texting and on the phone. And at that stage in our relationship, I was still a bit proud, maybe still playing a bit hard to get. I don't know what I was up to. But Mark might leave it a day to text me or ring, and then I'd leave it a day, or actually probably two, And then I think he was doing the same back to me. So it was going that we weren't talking for, it could be 3 days. 3 or 4 days, and I remember having a discussion with my friend about this, and she says, "Oh, have you ever thought about reading the love languages?" And I said, no, I might read it. And the same week, Mark had a conversation with a friend in Folkestone, and they had actually recommended the same book. And when Mark came over to Ireland, we didn't know this, we ended up talking, and he says, "Oh, my friend recommended this book." And I said, "My friend recommended this book." So I suppose I thought, well, actually, maybe that's God trying to say we should read the book. Because maybe just a coincidence. Sometimes when coincidences happen, I kind of think into them a bit more and think, oh, is that God or not, So read this book, and it's just really, it's just so good in how you, just improve your relationships, I suppose. So the idea is this guy, Gary Chapman, is a counsellor, and he believes that there are 5 love languages that humans as a race, we like to give and receive love in 5 primary love languages, like in 5 ways. So I'm going to comment on these ways, and the first one is words of affirmation, and that's me. And so for an example of that would be, for example, when we were going out only a very short time, Mark actually sent me 33 roses. And the reason he sent 33 roses was because the way I used to say it, 33, and he used to laugh his head off because obviously I'm Irish and he was English. But you know what? It was the little card that he'd sent with the roses that just said, "Enjoying spending time with you." That meant so much. He didn't, that meant more to me than all of these flowers, Little did he know at that time he would have saved himself a lot of money. So cards at birthdays are much more important to me than gifts. I wouldn't really mind if I didn't get a gift, to be honest with you, the birthday. It's the card that's more important to me. And every day, I'd regularly tell the children and Mark that I love them, whereas Mark would definitely, that wouldn't come easy to be using words as such. So that's just an idea of what words is. You might identify some of these as you're going along. The next is acts of service. So people who like to receive love in this way and give love might be people who like to do things for people. Like the person that I know with this is my father. He'd be laughing if he's listening here. My dad, trying to say any words of affirmation, he'd get really awkward to say "I love you," but he will do absolutely anything for me and my family. He works so hard, and he loves doing things for us. Like growing up, I used to love playing basketball, and he'd drive me to all my matches and pick me up, he'd just do anything. And when I go home, if I do the dishes for him, or if I cook a dinner or do anything, I can tell that means a lot more than if I gave him a card, or a new jumper. The third one is gifts, and these people, I suppose, they like to receive gifts because they feel like you've been thinking of them, and it's nothing expensive, just something thoughtful. And this is like my mum, for example, at Christmas time, she'll always give you the most thoughtful gifts. When she's in shops or different things, she'll always say, "Oh, that reminds me of someone, that reminds me of someone," always thinking of people. It's the thought of that you've been thinking of them. And so I suppose at Christmas time, I try and put a bit more thought with presents for her, because I know it means more. That's her love language, The other one is touch. So I've got friends, for example, through the lockdown, are finding it very hard because they can't hug people. And these people might be, when you meet up with them at the end of that meetup, they might embrace you, giving you a hug, or in a relationship, this person might appreciate if you hold their hand when you're walking, things like that. There's plenty of chapters on each of these, guys, so I'm trying to summarize these very quickly. And the fifth one is quality time. So that's my husband. So for example, tonight for his birthday, I spent the most effort I put in was for the dinner. I felt that, you know, if Mark would really appreciate if we all just sat down and had quality time as a family. So we had the dinner and the table was set, you know, phones were away, we were all just interacting, and that's, I suppose, the most important thing for Mark in our relationship, is that I can tell that if we haven't had quality time, you know, actually the book talks about this love tank. You'll all be thinking I'm so cheesy now, and it actually says that you should check in with your partner every now and again. How's your love tank? You know, because actually your love tank needs constantly filling. And you know, sometimes I'd say to Mark, oh, mine's down to 0 and it's 0 to 10, you know, and all he has to say is a few nice things to me and I'm literally like, yeah, I feel loved again, you know. And the same with Mark, he might say, no, I'm down to 0, and we just go for a walk on our own in the evening times, and ask someone to sit the kids, and literally he's just feeling loved again, you know. And I think the message of this book was that some couples can get into trouble because the partner might be, I suppose, trying to show love in the wrong way. So a partner could be working really hard, or like doing loads of acts of service for their wife, for example, cleaning the car, you know, or doing these things, whereas the wife might be like me and just needs words, you know, and needs to feel appreciated through words. So it's just really important. I've even noticed it in my children. My little boy has started just randomly coming up to me saying I love you, whereas my daughter never really did that, but she's kind of often just, you know, quality time. She really likes lots of intense, I suppose, time with me, you know, and I know that afterwards she just feels great, I can tell. So yeah, that's just a basic example. You can actually do a quiz to find out your love language. It might be fun with your partner.